to. Okay, great. So we're in, so you know, we're actually at Wentworth Woodhouse at the minute, and in a really, really derelict part of the building is this room, which has been the digital hub since
18 months.
18 months, yeah, for about 18 months. It's
Blimey.
one of there's only ever been one room good enough to use in this entire wing of the house. This is it. I was here at the weekend. I am decorating. Oh, Rakib has joined us. Great.
Yeah.
I am decorating a room next door to this, which will be your studio. So we've had it all rewired. We've had Wi-Fi connected to it. I've got some decorators in now because I'm behind. So we've got some decorators in who are doing a bit of emotion, but I'll be finishing it off with a bit of luck for the week after you start. You can have a look at it when you come next week. So you'll have a studio and you'll have this room as an editing suite. That's what we use it as. And then the rest of it looks, well, you'll see next week when you come. But the main purpose of today is for you to meet Tom, for him to chat through the program that we're going to go through over the next 6 months, 5 months, for you to ask any questions particularly, and for Tom to find out a bit more about you. So, as I did all the talking last Thursday, I'll move over to Tom.
Hi everyone, hope you're well. I'm just sort of checking everybody out, and more importantly, you're snooping on your backgrounds, to be honest. See where you're doing it from. I was just noticing we've got a few names, such as, I don't believe we have a Claire in the group.
No, Claire is.
It's from Mum's computer, so I'm Louis. It's from Mum's computer.
There's always one. Usually I like it's Joe in our group who always has like Samsung 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But luckily we know who Joe is now, so that's good. Fantastic. Is anybody else? Is there anyone else's names? Is it an Ed?
Yeah.
Ed Jones. Yeah, Ed Jones. Brilliant. Fantastic. Yeah, wonderful. Just making sure everybody's not catfishing. It's just obviously Louis today. That's fine. He's catfishing his mum. I think you do great on the circle. Wonderful. So Steve mentioned today is just a very light kind of touch. I really wanted to just a chance to kind of see and talk to you guys before we kind of really kick things off next Monday. I hope you guys are feeling excited, but I realize as well these experiences can make you feel a bit apprehensive because you're walking into, the next 5 months of your life, basically. So I hope you don't feel too nervous. A few nerves isn't too bad, but I'm in the same boat, and I'm sure Steve feels a bit the same as well, where we're starting a new journey, a new adventure together. So what I was going to do today was just walk you through, tell you a little bit about myself, my story. I promise I won't keep you on for ages. It's not like a Lord of the Rings trilogy or anything like that. It's nowhere near as good. But then tell you a bit more about the schedule we've got planned for the coming weeks. And then just mention a couple of little things that might be worth knowing. But we're still learning as well, so it might be today you're also giving us quite a lot of information about what your expectations are, and also if you've been in touch with people like maybe Rotherham Council or other organisations connected to this programme, you might want to fill us in on a few details if we're not aware of them ourselves. But I think Steve is pretty much up to speed. So yeah, first of all, I'm Tom. My story started really when I was 17 and I told my family I wanted to do a film and TV course, and their mouths just dropped open because I'd never mentioned doing any of that thing before. My background is not media production before then, and my parents certainly don't work in media production. So it was a bit of a surprise to my family, but I went off and I had a fantastic 3 years at university in York. And in my first year, I met a lot of BTEC students and college students who'd studied this kind of stuff, and I know we have some of those here. People who already knew how to use a camera at the age of sort of 17, 18, who'd watched hundreds of films and were very versed, and that just wasn't me. But I spent my first year working really hard, spending all my time with the kit, and luckily I won a National Film Award in my first year, which really was a good start. Fast forward to the third year of my university degree, and I was making my final year film. It was being showcased at the local cinema. The tutors had invited down some fairly high profile broadcast and film professionals. And straight after my screening, a guy called Howard, who was at the time, he was a producer at BBC Drama, he came up to me and he offered me a job. Now this is 1 week to finishing, for good, and walking into my professional career. And I thought, I've done it. Wow. Getting into the industry is quite tough, certainly if you don't have a lot of contacts. But this guy really likes what I'm doing. He's offered me a job. Fantastic. Anyway, fast forward, a few weeks before we started production, he called me up just to square the details. And he said, you do have a driver's license, right? No, I didn't. And he said, I'm really sorry, like part of the job is going to be ferrying around cast and crew. It's a bit rural. I'm really sorry, we're not going to be able to give you the job in time. I said, well, what if I do my driver's test really quickly, crash course? He went, all right. And again, cue the violins. I failed within the last 5 minutes of my driving test. So my projected plan wasn't going as I wanted. I moved back home to Oldham. I was cut away from my crew, from the equipment, all those resources I was used to for 3 years, and I hit a massive creative rut. Now, I kind of managed to get out of that rut eventually because I found an opportunity to work with some brilliant people at Media City. And from there, I was able to start a company. And for 10 years, I ran that company with those people. And we had a great time of it, picking our own clients, building up a team, building a studio, working with everyone from sort of big brands, well-known brands, to local startups, to charities, schools, and international events. And we had a whale of a time. And I've learned a lot over those 10 years from working with people. And now actually, I've sort of stepped away from that company. And I'm doing sort of a little bit of my own thing, really. But I've had a great opportunity with Wentworth Woodhouse over the last almost 2 years, working with their digital team, which is comprised mostly of volunteers, hasn't it? And people who've got a wealth of life experience. So it's been really fun to work with them. And we're in this hub right now. And you can't see it very well, but when you get here, you will. And there's pictures. Steve's put photographs on the wall of their journey of filming on different projects, going right from the point where you handed them a camera and they were like, what do we do with this? You know, right up to now where they're going out independently, directing their own films, picking their own projects, and doing a really good job at communicating what Wentworth is all about. So the point of that story really is that if you've ever hit a creative rut, or if you're in one right now, I know what that's like. And I know what it's like to be a compulsive creative, somebody who just really wants to make stuff. You don't care about the money, you just want to create stuff. I know what that's like, but I also know what it's like to work with a really good team of people, as opposed to doing all the work yourself. And what I'm really hoping for this team is that if you guys have met each other already, if you've not, is that over the course of these next 5 months, we're going to not only be able to help you be more creative as individuals, because I'm sure you're all really creative already, not only just to nurture that creativity, but hopefully bring it and cohesively bring it all together. So that my belief is that one person can write a masterpiece, one person can write a symphony or a novel. But when you look at sort of feature films, you look at some of the best bands in the world, you look at any group, any business that has a team of people, they can never say it's just down to one person. It's always those different influences and different ideas coming together. So what I'm really excited to see coming up over the months is how you guys gel. I'm not here to teach you to suck eggs. I'm not here to say you know nothing about video or nothing about creative media. I'm here purely to try and help you over 5 months create something brilliant, but then feel like you've actually developed along the way. And if you think you are out of the box creative already, that's fantastic. But let's see how much further we can push it. Yeah. So I've seen a few smiles and a few nods, but just give us a thumbs up if everybody's up for doing that. Good, fantastic. We're getting good in it.
Sorry, just going to have to step out for 2 minutes. I'll be back in a second. All right.
So I like to ask a question to the group, so you can turn your microphones on for any point if you want to chip in with a question or an answer. But creativity is really important to me, and I realise there's a state of flow of creativity when somebody, whether it's art, music, writing, whatever it might be, can find a really good spot for kind of coming up with ideas and development. But I just wanted to ask you guys, what do you think creativity is? Anybody can jump in. Anyone feel confident enough to jump in? You can write in the chat if you really want, but it'd be great to hear your voice.
I think it's like if you bring in your own ideas to life. So you have your idea and then you make it a thing. I think that's what I'd think it is.
Brilliant, great contribution. And you've already realised there's no real wrong answer here. This is what you think. So thanks, Ed. That's great. Bringing ideas to life. Just ask them what they think creativity is. Excellent. Anyone else? Again, there's no real wrong answer. It's what you believe creativity is.
I'd say it's coming up with ideas that people can engage with, and even if they're in different formats as well.
Brilliant. Is it? Have we got it? Is it Maya or is it Mia?
Maya.
It is Maya. Brilliant. Fantastic. Maya, that's great. Yeah, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Anybody else want to enhance or give their own views? What is?
I can't speak for everyone else, but for me, it's like I'll have an idea and I'll see it in my head, and then it's trying to tell everyone else, share it with everyone else, my view on how it would work, and then changing it to make it work for everyone else and stuff like that.
Super, brilliant, fantastic. Thanks, Louis. Anybody else?
I'd say it's like communicating your own ideas, or communicating it across to other people, because sort of being able to communicate your own creativity to others is probably the most important thing, because without communicating it, no one else is going to understand it, and it's not going to lead to the projects reaching the goals that they need to do.
Absolutely.
Achieve.
Absolutely, Dan. Brilliant. So, and what was really interesting there, nobody said, oh, sorry,
It's in the text.
oh, great, sorry, Keith, sorry. I think it's crafting something that goes against the norm but delivers a coherent message. Really good. Yeah, fantastic. All slightly different words that you've used. But what's really nice is it's obviously something about thinking and communicating, right? And my own sort of definition is, I've often said to people, I just think creativity is problem solving. Which is not 100% true. If you looked at the Oxford Dictionary, it probably wouldn't say those exact words. But I think we're all coming to a point here where none of us has said creativity is just about being really arty. And I think that if you go out in the world and you ask people, do you think you're creative? You usually get a yeah or no kind of answer, or maybe sometimes. It's very tentative. And for those people who usually say no, I think they often have a sort of a lack of confidence in what creativity is all about. And so it's nice. It's very much, you're right, thinking through a problem and thinking, how do we do something about that? So it's literally usually combining two different thoughts of, what was it? Sorry, agree. Sorry, it's just Rakib's right in there. Agree with that, because with film, you're always problem solving. As something always goes wrong in production. Now, if you look at an engineer, engineers problem solving, they're very creative. But if you look at a musician, again, a lot of problem solving. Artists, if you look at social situations, you can be creative there. So creativity is not just, drawing a masterpiece. So I'm glad that we're not already in that kind of train of thought, which is wonderful. I think Steve might have mentioned it to you, but something we're going to be looking into is 8 creative qualities. So I've spent years working in schools and businesses, charities, and looking at how do we creatively communicate something. And if you're trying to be a better creative, the question of are you creative isn't usually good enough, because it's yes or no or maybe. But actually, the 8 creative qualities that I put out there is confidence, observation, curiosity, mindfulness, humility, resourcefulness, action, and energy. And over the course of the 5 months, what I'd love to see is you guys working on those 8 creative qualities. So you might think you're a very confident person, or you're not. But even if you're a very confident person, I'm sure there are different ways you can look at that. Or it might be that there might be another creative quality like humility or mindfulness or curiosity where you think you might be a bit weaker. So the little challenge I'm going to set you guys now is I'm just going to go through that list again. And if you've got a pad and pen or a phone, something you can write down with, I'd like you to score yourself out of 10 for each of these creative qualities. Okay, it's a little bit of interactivity now, but just out of 10. So out of 10, how confident are you? And just write it on your pad. You don't need to share it in the chat yet. We'll tally them up at the end. But just out of 10, 10 obviously being the most confident, 1 being not very confident. Okay. The next one is observation. How observant are you? How observant are you? 10, between 1 and 10. Okay. Number 3 is curiosity. How curious are you? How good are you asking questions? You ask a lot of questions. Number 4 is mindfulness, which really is about being in the present. Do you get sort of logged down? You kind of lose your focus because of things that have happened before or things that might happen in the future? Or can you be present and can you be focused on what you're doing at that time? The next one is humility. Are you open to other people's ideas and other people's suggestions and feedback? Are you open-minded? The next one is resourceful. So it's not just about how many resources you have, but what can you do with the resources that you do have? Can you look at things and see different ways to get to your destination? Last 2, the next one is action. Now, for anyone who's into kind of writing or coming up with ideas, are you actually good at taking the action? Are you actually good at going, right, we're going to make this, we're going to do this. It's not just going to be a thought in my head. I'm actually going to be productive and I'm going to go out and do it. How good are you out with action? And the final one is energy. Do you have good energy? And I'm not just talking about, you know, zipping around like you're on Sunny D, which probably most of you never heard of, but I'm talking about energy where it's a case of, can you draw energy from a situation? Also, can you give energy out to other people? Can you lift a team? You know, can you lift a project with your energy? So if you give yourself a score at 1 to 10 for all of those 8 creative qualities, add them all up and you'll have a score out of 80. And if you feel confident, and I really hope you do, because again, this is quite helpful, I'd like you to post your score in the chat, if you wouldn't mind. If you want to know a percentage, I was just double checking I actually got that right because my maths is atrocious. You can times that by 1.25 if you want a percentage. That's quite good. But if you've already done it, which most of you have now, which is great. Hope you don't mind. I'm just going to read them out. Ed's written 67. Anya's written 50. Daniel, sorry, I called you Dan before because you're email. Do you prefer Dan or Daniel?
Either is fine.
I'll go with Dan because I hate Thomas, so I always go with Tom. I always go with short and long, but Dan's cool.
That's fine.
Adam, 69, Maya 61, Claire, also known as Louis, depending on how he's feeling on the day, is 55, Ryan's 55, and Rakib is 70. Is that, yeah, we've got everyone? Just checking. Yeah, brilliant. Wonderful. Now, it doesn't matter whether you've got the highest score or the lowest score there because you've judged it by yourself. It's a self-reflective task. But you know what would be absolutely lovely is that by the end of these 5 months that you've realised something, and you realise either one or two things. One, that your score has actually gone up, which would be lovely, and that you've worked on. So if you give yourself maybe a 4 or 5 or even a 7 for something, and it's gone up, that would be wonderful. But you know what also sometimes happens? Sometimes people realise, oh, I gave myself a 9 for that thing, but actually I wasn't a 9 because I still had a lot more that I could do with that. So actually I was probably a 7, but now I am a 9. So sometimes your score doesn't always go up either. So it's a self-reflective tool, but ultimately, rather than just asking yourself, are you creative? Is, you know, how can you be more creative? Because the more creativity you use, the more you have. So thank you very much for doing that. That's going to become in a lot of use over these next few weeks. It's going to come in use next week as well when we really kick things off face to face. And I hope it's already given you a bit of an opportunity to just to think about where you're at with your creative journey. So that's lovely. Does anybody have any questions before we start talking about the schedule for this program? No, everyone's keen to get into it. Do you have anything to add before we get into the schedule?
No, just to emphasise what Tom said there. When we were at the event at the Civic, Leah was telling you about the overarching, if you like, purpose of this programme, which is to listen to young people and out of that listening process, create the prototype for something that can be scaled up for 365 days of cultural activity in 2025 for the Rotherham's Capital of Culture. So each of those qualities, and one of the reasons that we've asked Tom to do this, is an absolutely fundamental part of making that bigger thing work. And I know when I was working in my previous life, if in my head I was doing that exercise just now, I think actually that point about marking myself quite highly, I would have done, and I would definitely have marked myself slightly lower at having gone through a program such as this. So it doesn't matter whether you've started high or you've started low. The idea is that we see some movement through this program. And as we progress, as Tom goes through the schedule, if at any point during this things start to feel a bit strained or you feel a bit as though you're struggling, then talk to me, talk to Tom. There are other people we can talk to as well. Whatever you do, don't bottle it up. This is a completely open sharing environment. And the last thing we want is to make anybody feel uncomfortable. So if, for example, you've marked yourself, trying to think which of those qualities, mindfulness is probably the one that I would have given myself the lowest mark on. But I'm not going to feel intimidated by the fact that maybe I'm not very good on the mindfulness section. I will explore how I can improve that. So don't feel as though you can't talk to either of us about anything, because you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is definitely something we're going to really probably go on about a lot, because it's very easy, and we've probably seen it both in work environments, and again, if anybody's seen it in school, college, or their own work environments, it's not nice when people feel they can't communicate and they can't talk. And it's sometimes the simplest thing is just having a 5-minute chat with somebody at the end of the day. That obviously it solves so many little problems sometimes that can fester over many weeks and many months of either feeling left out or feeling misunderstood, or just feeling offended sometimes. And it's easy just to say, listen, wasn't very happy with that, or that upset me, or I'm not feeling very comfortable with this. Just saying that to say Steve and myself, or even potentially to each other as you make friendships, is going to be really important, because I say ultimately creativity can only happen if we're working together cohesively, and that involves trust most of all. So I hope you keep that in mind, and we will get into kind of a code of conduct of sorts, but mostly just kind of general rules. But we won't do that today. We're going to do that kind of next week and on as we go, because the most important thing is to protect creativity, and to protect creativity well, you've got to trust and protect each other. So if somebody says an idea, it's not about going but, or me, or cutting in. And it's so easy to do that. I've done it myself. You cut in, oh, I've got an idea. Or no, I don't like that. What about this one? It's so easy to do those little things, and it can affect the dynamic of a group. So anyway, we'll work on that next week and in the coming weeks. But just keep it in mind, like I said, you're new to each other. It's the compliment sandwich. Say something nice, give a bit of critique, and then say something nice again. Soften the blow if you can, if you're going to give feedback, certainly as you're getting to know each other.
And really, what we do with the digital team at Wentworth, every time we make a film, we circulate it around the group, and that's a peer review basically. It's an opportunity for all of us to look at what we're each doing and to contribute suggestions or ideas. And if you've looked on the website, on the YouTube channel, you'll have seen we're doing an A to Z series. The first one of those was letter A. I did that one. I edited that one and scripted it. And the next one up is letter B, which is for the wing that we're in at the minute. It's called Bedlam. Now, I sent out 3 films last week, and I asked for feedback on all 3 of them. And normally what I get is, oh, this is great. Oh, Steve, it's wonderful. Oh, la, 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 which is lovely, but it's not particularly helpful because I am still learning. Absolutely. I mentioned to you last time, I have no technical skills in making video at all, other than what I've learned here. One of the pieces of feedback that came back to me was, these films have got to be about 90 seconds long. And to make the film fit the time, I'd speeded up some of the clips. So it all looked a bit frantic. I got within the time thing, but I took the feedback on board. Use fewer clips, play them at the normal speed. It'll feel better. I took that on, I altered it, and that's what you see when you go on YouTube now. The guy that did the letter B had included some static shots in his edit of architecture, and they were slightly off level. And so the feedback he got was, this is the pet hate of the person who was reviewing. Can you just level them up a little bit? If you don't level it up, it don't look as good as I know we can make it. We've come a long way with this program. So the individual was trying to help. The recipient of that had an absolute meltdown because he thought he was being deeply criticised. And this is a guy in his 60s. And it took me a little bit of time to sort of bring him down off the ceiling and saying, look, this is all part of the process. And unfortunately for him, he'd had a complete mare of an editing project previously. These 90-second clips are quite unusual. The short and should be simple. He'd done a project which had got 70 different pieces of film, plus whatever different stills and audio. That project really taxed him. I still haven't released it because, to be honest, it's still not quite right. So he's feeling quite sensitive about his editing, and then he got this piece, and so he just had a meltdown. Don't have the meltdown, have the conversation, and we'll sort it all out.
Like I said, we'll keep saying that because it's really important. It really is. But like I said, we're all a bit different. I want to jump onto the scheduling now, just to give you a bit of a taste of what's to come. So the question you might have is, what's going to happen next Monday when you turn up? So again, Steve, correct me if I get any of this wrong, but I believe you've all received an invitation now to come to Wentworth Woodhouse for 9:30 next
10 o'clock.
Is it 10 o'clock? Sorry.
Well, the invitation was for 10 o'clock, but I'm going to ask you to get there after this for 9:30.
Brilliant. So if that's okay with you guys, and again, Steve, as I believe, sort of mentioned some travel arrangements.
Yeah. So the reason we want to start early, a little earlier next week, there's 2 reasons actually. The first is, for most of you, it's going to be your first opportunity to get inside the house. And when you see the outside of the house, It looks really exciting. When you get inside it, it's going to blow your mind. It really is. So just a bit of time to let the excitement subside a little bit before we start the program. Normal start time will be 10, but Monday 9:30, and I'll confirm by email. We're in the process of setting up a business account with City Taxis, which are based Sheffield, Doncaster, Rotherham and Barnsley. I will be sending you a link to the booking site if you need to get a taxi here. There will also be a password on that. So to book your taxis, you go online, you put the password in, you say where you're picking up and where you're going to be dropped off, and the same for coming back. So Monday we'll be finishing at 4 o'clock. So get your taxis booked to get you here at 9:30 and to pick you up at 4 o'clock. If any of you can share Adam and Ryan, if you're coming from the same address on this particular day, then just grab a taxi together. If you're driving, Ed's driving, but he only lives 2 miles away.
Oh, right, okay, that's close.
So it's relatively close. Louis lives virtually next door. So he might walk or he might get a lift. But if you need a taxi, that's the route to get it. There'll be no money that you need to pay. I just get a bill at the end of every month and we pay that through the project. So it's as simple as that. You have to book your taxi to and from, and you have to use a code to be able to book it. And you do it through the business account, not the ordinary booking account.
Yeah, and no booking limos. I'm joking.
Yeah, it's not a massive budget, so it's just ordinary taxis, please.
And Louis, if you want to come up with a creative way to get to Wentworth Woodhouse every day, that'd be great too. You can moonwalk one day, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so any questions around travel, please direct to Steve. But hopefully that makes perfect sense. And again, it's a nice plus because for those of you who've probably done jobs and work experience and other things, you don't always get that thrown in. So I think it's great that Wentworth have done that. So that's how you're going to get here. I said we are asking you to come here for 9:30. Don't worry if you're a few minutes late. Again, that's kind of what that half an hour is for, is just to make sure we've got everybody. We're not sort of starting, stopping. But we will be starting dead on 10 o'clock. That's when we're going to kick things off. I'm going to kick things off with a sort of special little induction. I'm not going to tell you too much about it now, but as Steve said, hopefully, well, I'm sure this place will blow your mind. If you've not been here before, it's fantastic. It really is. I only came here first time 18 months ago, and it blew my mind. It's fantastic, and I think we're going to have a really good time working here and potentially shooting some content. But we're going to go on a little bit of induction, so you'll learn a little bit about the place where you'll be based on Mondays and some other days. And we're also going to be looking at these creative qualities, and you're also going to be introduced to some of the members of the Wentworth Woodhouse team. I'm going to tell you a bit about what you need to know. And you can ask as many questions as you want. It's hopefully going to be a relatively fun day, bit of team building. And lunch as well. You need to bring your own lunch and refreshments, just because Mondays and Tuesdays, when you're potentially going to be in the most, there's nothing open here. And again, we'll be going to Louis' house for snacks otherwise, which I'm sure you won't be very keen on.
His mum might have an issue with that.
Yeah, exactly. So please remember to do that. I mean, obviously, I'm sure we could fill up a water bottle or something, couldn't we?
Yeah, so things like water, tea and coffee, I can sort that out here. That's not an issue, but bring something to eat. The entire site is closed on a Monday, so when you get there on your taxis, this will be in the email that will come out. The gates more than likely will be closed. When you get out if you get out of the taxi, and there's a little side gate on the left, if you go around the back of that, there is a keypad, and if you press in the code, which will be in the email, that'll open the gates, and you can sweep down the drive. If for some reason that doesn't work, ring me and I'll open the gate, because I'll be here. I'll open the gate from inside the house.
Brilliant. So the general idea at the moment is that you guys will be invited to come on site on Mondays. Now, there will be a few bank holidays when we just won't be able to do that, because as it's kind of under the kind of Rotherham Council sort of heading anyway, they won't encourage you to work on bank holidays, which they shouldn't. So we will likely move those dates to maybe a Tuesday, for example. Conventional Tuesdays, though, we'll do probably one or two things. One, we'll either have a virtual meeting in the morning, a bit like this. It won't be all day, I promise you. We won't do any 5-6 hour Zoom sessions, I promise you. But we might have an hour or 2 hours just to continue a train of thought and set you up for the week. Or alternatively, we might arrange for you to come on site again if we feel you might benefit from sort of hands-on sort of time with equipment, or just face-to-face interaction. And again, that will be sorted through the travel plan that Steve set up. So Mondays and Tuesdays are kind of key one. And we're aware as well that a few people have a few like kind of college sort of commitments. and we're working through those and discussing those. But just keep us up to date. If you're not going to make a Monday and you know it, just maybe mention the prior week, saying, just a reminder, I won't be here. Or if you're away on holiday, something like that, just say, I'm not going to be here next week, just so we know. And we don't want it to lose you guys and be like, it's not been here for 6 weeks now. Where's it going? So Mondays and Tuesdays, but there will be other opportunities coming up. And without giving hopefully too much away, there's a really exciting thing going on at Wentworth Woodhouse in the coming months. And Steve's already set up a potential opportunity for you guys to have a little look at what's going on behind the scenes. There's also a big event as well that's going on in March that we're looking not only for you guys to kind of meet people and get involved in, but potentially create a piece of content for the big showcase. So Mondays and Tuesdays, but again, there will be some of the dates that we ask you. I think the general thing is you'll be doing about 2 days a week with us.
So the contracts are for 3 days a week, and at the minute, as you know, we don't know quite what commitment you're going to need to make to the source until you've been there and they've worked out your training program. So Tom and I are working on the assumption from now that we're going to keep you busy for a couple of days and that the source is going to keep you busy for another day. But if we have to team and ladle the times, that's what we'll do. We'll work it out. Until you've been through those initial meetings with the source, we just don't know. There is a bit of a time pressure from our perspective, and we were talking about this morning. The filming event you already know about, and that will be an observational thing. The big arts festival that we're hosting here in March, I would love for this team to have created a piece of content for that. I mentioned it's on the theme of listening. We're clearly listening to you, all of you trainees, to find out what we should be doing for the Children's Capital of Culture. So it's a really nice tie-in. So your piece, you can define what it is, but there's very little time to actually make it, because film night is, I think, the 12th of March. So we open on the Friday, but film night is the 12th of March. So if we're starting this program to all intents and purposes first week in February, you've kind of got 4 weeks to pull something together, and from a standing start in terms of what that thing should be. So if it turns out we can't do it, we don't do it, that's fine. But it will be, we'll just do the sort of meeting artists, and you can have a sort of a preview and a showcase of what they're doing. But in a perfect world, we'd have a piece of content that you've created for that.
Yeah. So in terms of the overall 5 and a bit months that we've got, by the end of it, there will be a final piece project, which isn't this what we're talking about right now. And we'll be working towards that. And we have to have that finished by the end of June, because that's when this program finishes. So how are we going to get there? What's going to be the journey? Well, as I mentioned, there's an induction. Then the sort of 8 weeks that follow through February, March, we're going to expose you hopefully to as much interesting digital and creative content as possible. And that will mean that each week we'll focus on something slightly different in the whole sphere of multi-platform media. And we're going to be bringing some guests in. Steve's already managed to organise a few sort of events or opportunities as well, with things going on at Wentworth. But we'll be covering a range from creative writing, illustration, video, of course, music, even a little bit of VR and AR and things like that. And if you've got loads of experience in one of those areas or more, fantastic, bring your game to the table, because it's then all about how we see the strengths of the team and how we can utilize those for the much bigger projects which we're going to work on. But equally, if you're really new, if you've never even looked at VR, AR before, or something like illustration, don't worry, it's a chance to just become a little bit more used to it and ask questions and try things. And I promise you that we're not going to be here to try and push you into a place of real discomfort, but we are going to try and push you out of your comfort zone, because ultimately we all have one. It doesn't matter whether it's a big one or a little one. And if you can push yourself just a little bit, usually it's only 5% more. I think that's the recommended amount. 5% more at every opportunity. You get yourself through that fear factor of being scared to death of it, and then you get into that growth stage. And you'll have all done it, no matter what you're good at. You'll all have strengths, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what those are. But you'll also have weaknesses. You'll also have things that your opportunities in front of you, and you'll also have things that might threaten those opportunities. And together we're going to work together and hopefully say, bring it all. If you're really good at music, or you're really good at animation, or really good at video, we're going to bring all that together. And like I said, ultimately come up with a concept. So there'll be some pitching, there'll be some ideation, all of that through the first 8 weeks. And when we get to April, that is the point where we're going to sit down as a team, think through everything we've absorbed for 2 months, and we're going to try and together come up with a big, challenging, mammoth concept, something that's going to blow people's mind. That's the goal. Come on, and we don't know what it's going to be yet. We have no agenda because we both agreed that we want it to be your idea and we're going to support you with that. But as a group, you're going to come up with that idea, whatever it is, okay? And it's going to be something that we can create together. And then by the time we get to June, when it's finished, it's going to be a proof of concept piece, something we can show the council, the other organisations, the whole of Rotherham potentially, and we can share with them and say, look at this and look at the potential it has to have an impact. And we've got the Children's Capital Culture coming up, haven't we, in 2025? And we're really hoping that everyone will see the potential in your idea and go, wow, I can see where this is going. And we don't know what will happen from that point of view, but what we hope will happen is that something really exciting will take place from that point. And to the point where we get to the Children's Capital Culture, we'll be able to see it from your idea in April right through to 2025. So I hope you're excited about that, because I've literally been giddy about it for about 3 months now. I've been really giddy about it, but it's got to come from you guys, okay? So that's all I'm asking for you, is you just bring the right attitude. I don't care if you've never picked up a camera before. I don't care if you know nothing about music or VR or AI. I don't care about any of that. All we really want is for you guys to come and bring your A game and want to work with each other. That's all we can ask from you every week. And of course, that you respect Wentworth Woodhouse and everyone who's here as well. But can you just get another thumbs up? Does that sound all right to everybody? Lovely. And does anybody have a question?
No. What Leah said at the induction event last week, and I'm actually saying this mainly for Liv because she wasn't there, and Rakib also, he wasn't there, is that each of the creative partners is providing training in different aspects of working in the cultural industry sector. We've chosen digital skills as applied to filmmaking, but other organisations are doing different things. And the idea is that each of them creates a big concept at the end of the 5-month period, which can then be scaled up to deliver on 365 days of cultural activity for Rotherham during 2025. So that to me is the biggest challenge, because it isn't just a nice film that you happen to make around Wentworth Woodhouse. This is a concept that can be scaled. So I mentioned the three of the good ideas that had already been put forward. When you answered your questions, I mentioned 3 ideas on Thursday. One was piggybacking, if you like, on the Venice Film Festival or the Cannes Film Festival, that there is a children's film festival in Rotherham. One was about linking a film from different faiths, which focused on their similarities rather than some of the antagonistic kind of footage that they often get, because once you start to understand faith, actually a lot of them are talking the same language. And another theme that's come from a couple of you actually was around this notion that, yeah, it's a children's capital of culture, but actually we want to be doing something that involves more than just children. It's an intergenerational celebration of Rotherham. And I think all of you on your interview pre-questionnaires, when you were thinking about the words that you would like to associate with Rotherham in the future, there are some brilliant ones there. There are some core themes that we can pull out of there. So, you know, people wanting to feel proud about Rotherham, people wanting Rotherham to be a happy place, a safe place. So how do we build all of that into this final concept? And yet the output is going to be a piece of film, but what format that film takes, what style, what look and feel it has, that's entirely up to you. And we'll have ideas as we go along, but actually our ideas are of less interest than anything that you put forward, because this is your programme and it needs to be your output right at the very end. So as Tom says, bring your A game in whichever area that's in, and then as a team, one of the biggest challenges for us actually is to get you all working as a single team. And we are actually going to sort of put the cat amongst the pigeons to begin with, because we're going to break you up into smaller teams for one of the first activities to create. Can I tell?
You can tell everyone. Yeah.
So I mentioned this briefly on Thursday, that we were going to do some kind of a, not Dragon's Den thing, but that's essentially what it will feel like to you guys. You're going to be working in teams, and we're going to probably bring in a small team of the existing digital volunteers to contribute ideas, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 5 ideas of what the big thing or concept might be. but you're actually going to pitch that to a panel of people. I'm going to set it up in one of the posh rooms upstairs, and we'll have maybe 3 or 4 judges who you will pitch your ideas to, and then they will select the ideas that we as a group then work with. And that's very, very similar. When I was working, part of my job was to go into organisations where I'd taken a brief from, and I'd been in competition with 3, 4, 5 other companies sometimes. So having the confidence to pitch that idea and being able to answer questions that might come off the wall about that idea from a client, a potential client, is all part of you working in this sector. Yeah, you might know somebody who gives you a job, but when you're actually trying to find work, you probably aren't going to be in a field where there is no competition. So having the ability to express your ideas clearly and in an engaging way. I didn't tell you this, but you know that I worked in sales and marketing. I was sales and marketing director. I never used to recruit pure salespeople ever. I never did that, because for the market I was working in, it was more important that I could have somebody in front of a client who could listen. And if all you're doing is selling a product, what you tend to do is talk about the product all the time, and you miss all the buying signals by listening to your client and what they're actually wanting, because you're too busy selling what you've got to offer. So I used to recruit into my team people from disciplines like project management or design, instructional design, learning design. If they had the confidence to be able to talk to another person and present ideas, they were brilliant, because all they do is listen and then interpret that creatively into a solution for a client. And they make brilliant salespeople because they talk the same language as the client. So putting you in that position, we will probably do this more often than the once, but certainly to get the big idea and to do this pretty quickly, we're going to set that Dragon's Den type thing up, and out of that activity will come a collective agreement on what the big thing is, and then we need to put things in place to actually make it.
Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions now or at a later date, feel free to ask them, because again, it's your program of events. So if it doesn't make sense to you, ask as many questions as you want. I just going to quickly mention that one thing we're going to work on for communication before I turn this over is that I believe that the council, have they all given you an email, an individual email? Have you received an email address, like an account? No, getting some shakes of head. Okay, because that's one of the things that we were looking to set up, but we don't want you to have like 3 or 4 emails because it just get confusing. But if all goes well, we'll probably put you all in an individual like Gmail account. So that means that, well, if you've got like a Hotmail or something, you don't have to use that then. And there's a bit of GDPR and safeguarding it with that as well. But we want to make sure that we can all communicate ideas. So things like Google Documents, that kind of stuff, we're sharing. Because if you start writing scripts or doing risk assessments or shooting scripts, storyboards, we want to make sure you can share that digitally. The second thing is anybody familiar with something called Slack? It's a tool, it's a team tool. Anybody heard of Slack? Good, that's fine. I hadn't years ago, and then one of the companies I was with started using it. It's a really good team tool. It works a little bit like WhatsApp in a way, but it's really good for sharing ideas and having different channels and different feeds. So if you're talking about one video, it's not getting confused with another project. So we're going to look at using Slack. And then the final thing is, if you guys feel comfortable, I like everybody to be aware of each other's mobile numbers if you're happy to share it. For me and Steve, it's really good because if you need to contact us, even if it's like 5 minutes late or you're on holiday, something happens, we want to know, we want to make sure you're okay and stay in touch. But also on a more day-to-day basis, Wentworth Woodhouse is huge. I'm not going to lie, it's massive. And if you're in one room and somebody's at the other end, sending an email that somebody might not check till the end of the day is not going to cut it. So you're probably going to need to make sure you have each other's numbers. So it's a bit like Dan, I need to go meet Dan, but he's in the gardens. It's going to take me 20 minutes to walk there. So it's that kind of thing. So if you want to swap numbers now, you can do. If you want to wait till Monday or so forth, that's fine. But again, because you're on the same Zoom call, there is obviously a private chat function. And if you have been messaging each other anyway, that's fine. But make sure in the next week that certainly we have our numbers and you can have ours as well. And again, it's purely for the idea that if you are, say, running late or you need to do something on a project day, that we've got the numbers, etc. But if you want to, message each other, have you seen this? Have you seen the new whatever film on Netflix? If you want to have those chats, that's up to you. By the way, I've got to ask, Adam, what is the name of that Pokemon on your bed?
What, the big one?
Big one. It's been winding me up. What's the name of it?
Snorlax.
Snorlax. There we go. Sorry, it was gonna bug me all evening. That was gonna bug the heck out of me. Brilliant. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do with communication. Just, so you'll have your own email. We'll be using Slack, which is basically you download it on your phone or your computer or your iPad or whatever you've got as an app. I believe that you're getting laptops from the council, or you have laptops from the council. They're getting them. Okay, so that'll be really, really useful. We'll sort you out. The other thing, I should mention this. So you've got the 8 weeks of kind of almost like development of digital and story, getting loads of exposure to lots of different things. We've got the ideation. April, we start working on the key idea, and however long that takes to make, film, edit, animate, whatever it might be, we'll do that and we'll have it finished by June. In addition to that, I should also mention, trying to overload you now, that we will be asking you to keep a journal, a logbook if you wish. And this is something that you can keep however you want. You can just scribble in it. You can talk and write things up later. But the idea is you document your journey in some way, how you're feeling, what you're learning, your ideas, mind mapping, scribbles, whatever it might be. And then roughly every month, we're going to ask you to record a video diary. And you don't have to do that around anybody else, or you can ask for help if you want. But you'll record just a couple of minutes of just a little video diary, and you'll send that to us guys, and we're going to collect them over the month. So you'll produce probably 5 or 6 video diaries by the end. And that is something that hopefully will be great for logging your journey. And I know right now 5 months, it either seems a million miles away. You think, we'll be there in 2 seconds. But I promise you, if we do this right, and if everybody gets involved, which I'm sure you will, by June, we should be able to look back and see an amazing journey that we've taken. So you'll be doing sort of like a journal experience. And something that we're setting up at the moment, it might not be ready for the first week of February, but we're going to be setting up not only this fantastic training hub next door, but we're going to be setting up a mini studio as well. So for those of you interested in studio or even just camera kind of gear and lighting, it's going to be a real geek out, because it's going to allow you guys to bring in, you can do it yourselves, but bring in visitors, guests, people. So we've got some really good guests lined up, and you can interview them. You could do shows, you could do a game show, you could do whatever you want. You could do a breakfast morning TV thing if you wanted. But we're going to expose you to that kind of almost live show setup. So if you've done it before, great. If you've never done it before, it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're hopefully going to get into a rhythm of creating shows, hopefully by maybe every week or every 2 weeks. And we can do whatever you want with them. But the difference from like a vlog or an interview to a show is quite a lot. So that's something we're going to build up to. We might not start that though till probably March. But again, it'd be fantastic if you're producing little 20-minute shows, something I did during lockdown with my company, and it was great. It was really not just good for ourselves, but it was good for the community, because you could talk about anything and share things. So yeah, so you got 8 weeks of sort of training development. You've got then the rest of it, the other half, working on the project. You've got the journal experience throughout, and then we're going to get into these studio shows from about March. And that's kind of it, really. I probably overloaded you with too much already, but it's just too much excitement. What can I say?
Just so you don't get too excited, although Tom's saying we need the final piece by the end of March, which is absolutely true. I've told him that we actually need it by the 15th of March. Because then we've got some time if we need to top and tail it and tweak it. So from the moment you start, which effectively will be the first week in February, you've got until the middle of March to have completed this final piece.
June.
And then, June.
June. You worried me then.
Middle of June, yeah. You're narrowing the time scale.
Yeah, June.
We just need a bit of time, just in case we want to make some final improvements to whatever it is we create. So if we're doing what Tom suggests with the video output, we might be creating, somewhere between 10 and 20 individual pieces of video during the time, which is brilliant. Some of them will be tiny, some will be little video pieces, and then this final piece, obviously. But actually, there isn't a lot of time, which is where your 2 days a week with others is going to be eaten up. Some of it will be physical training, some of it will be research and script writing and editing, which you can do here or you can do at home. So there will be a balance between the time that you spend in front of myself and Tom and the time that you work on your own or remotely work as a team, which is something else that we're going to encourage you to do.
Brilliant. So just the final thing I wanted to do now, because you've all been sat very patiently looking at us, is something, I don't know if anyone goes to business networking kind of things or anything, but usually when I go to a networking event, they ask everybody to stand up. You don't have to stand up and just give 60 seconds about themselves. So I think this would be really good for us to do right now. And I'm sorry if you feel already kind of tingling with uncomfort and discomfort at the idea of doing this. Keith, if you can't turn a microphone on, if you can, that'd be great. But if you can't, you could always put yours in the chat if you wanted. But I've got, sorry, Dan, you're at the top of my screen. So I'm going to go through it in a snake fashion. It don't have to be perfect. It's just enjoy it. But 60 seconds, just tell us about yourself.
Well, I started doing video before I went to university. I went to sixth form and didn't really know what I wanted to do. Then, as I don't know if anyone else has been to sixth form, and they try and push you to do any old thing at university because that's what they do these days. And then I had a year out and decided I wanted to do stuff with video. So I went to uni, did 3 years at UCI in Rotherham, doing media, moving image photography. And then started doing freelance, and I was there as a freelance part of the course. So I created my own little business called Mint Jelly Media. And then I started doing freelance then for the past couple of years. Obviously, I've been interrupted by lockdowns, but started doing freelance after when I was at uni, and then for the 2 years after I'd finished. So been doing all sorts of videos for different sorts of clients. Worked with the council for a couple of little things, voluntary action, Rotherham and stuff. Done stuff with Rotherham United, done stuff with different charities, interviewed people, and yeah, done quite a lot of projects really over the years of different interesting things. So and that's what's led me on to looking into something a bit more permanent and looking at new opportunities that either allow me to continue doing that or allow me to move into something permanent.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, thanks, Dan. That's great. And we've both looked at your website, and there's some great stuff on there. So looking forward to what you do in the group. I'm going to go across now to Ed. Sorry, Ed, you're the next one on the list. I'm not sorry, actually. Great, Ed, you got the opportunity. You're second on the list.
I'm Ed, and I'm from Doncaster. I live just into Doncaster on the edge of where Wentworth is. I'm at Sheffield Hallam University, and I'm doing fashion management and communication, which is kind of half marketing, half like creative, like videos, photography, that sort of thing. And I went to sixth form and I did art, politics and business, which politics I was awful at. Couldn't do it for the life of me. But then in art, I like doing things like video and photography. So I took that to a degree. And then I realized in my degree, I like video more than most things and photography. But yeah, that's me so far.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ed. That's great. I'm going to sneak down now, and we've got Maya, if that's all right.
Yeah, so I also went to sixth form where I did media studies, English literature and history. Media, we essentially had to teach ourselves. The teachers that we had were English teachers. I went to Salford University. I graduated in 2020, so I had to complete my year in lockdown, which was delightful. We were only the second year to do that course, so they were still testing it out. So it wasn't the greatest 3 years. I'm currently working at Clifton Park Museum. I started there in June, doing the Kickstart scheme till December. So I worked across front of house and learning and engagement in the offices. And I've stayed on as a visitor service assistant, just a fancy way of saying front of house. And I'm kind of being hired to do some days in the office as well, helping out with Keppel's column.
Brilliant, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing. I'm going to skip across over to Adam now, if that's all right.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been doing media for quite a while because I did it in college, and then I took a 2-year break and I didn't really know what to do. So I went to UCR, and I'm in my last year now, and sort of doing stuff there. And at the minute, I'm going to be quite a busy bee this year because I've got my final year work to do, and a couple of sort of people from our class have come together and we're setting up a production company. So we're kind of doing that, and that's just doing some writing and stuff like that. So yeah.
Oh, wonderful, thanks. That sounds like it's going to be a very busy year for you.
Yeah.
And lovely to know about it. I'm sure, hopefully, we'll hear more about it as we go through this as well. Yeah. Right, over to Louis now. That's okay.
Hello. As you just said, my name's Louis. At the moment I'm at Barnsley College studying drama, because I've been doing drama since I was like 7. But like I were in like extras, like in the background of movies. But from like doing that and seeing all the film crew and all that, I kind of just like developed this feeling that I wanted to be behind the camera instead of the front in front of the camera. So since then I've just been like dabbling with myself, like writing all ideas I have down, and like little short movies, and then to see what my friends think and see what like all these people think, and brought me to here. So here I am.
Wonderful, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing. I want to skip down now to Anya, if that's okay.
Hi, I'm Anya, and I study media at Rotherham College, and which includes going into the TV studio, radio booth, and filming short films. And we helped in December. My class, or whole of my class, went down to the primary school nearby and helped film the nativity. And yeah, I don't know what else to say.
No, that's fine. It's good. It's nice to learn a little bit about what you've been up to. Absolutely. So thank you very much for that. That's great, Anya. Lovely to meet you. We're going to go over to Ryan.
I started studying media at Rotherham College for 2 years. Before I didn't really know what to do, and Adam helped me influence into the media world, so I thought I'd give it a shot, and I love it. Did some weird films over 2 years, some mainly in lockdown on my second year. Some of them a bit bizarre, but some of them are good as well. Then after that, my tutors pushed me into studying at the UCR. So now I'm on my first year of degree and I love it. And then Adam brought me this opportunity to work with Wentworth Woodhouse, and I'm looking forward to doing it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I tell you what, if you the day you win an Oscar, Ryan, I can see it. Hopefully, Adam will get just as good as a moment there as well. So well done, Adam, as well.
Yeah. Well done.
I don't know if you can put your microphone on, or if you can put something in the chat, if that's possible. It's got a mystery around Ricky right now.
He might be at uni.
If it's not coming through, hopefully we can try and do that on Monday. It looks like it's not going to happen, but thank you so much for sharing. I hope you say it wasn't too uncomfortable. It was just lovely just to kind of hear you guys share a little bit about yourself, and hopefully we'll get more of that on Monday. So just confirmation, 9:30.
Yeah, I'll send out an email. It'll probably be tomorrow now, because I need to spend some more time with Tom today. So that'll have the link for the taxi firm. It'll have the times we need you on site, and it'll have the password to actually log on to the site. Just to reiterate, and it'll be in the email again, you need to bring something to eat. We can probably sort out tea and water and coffee whilst you're here. As I mentioned on Thursday, you are obviously employed by Rotherham Borough Council, but you're effectively on secondment to Wentworth Woodhouse. So whilst you're here, you are in effect employees, your team members like the rest of us are. So I can't remember who it was. It might have been Louis. What do you wear? Louis or Ryan asked, what do you wear around the house? And we wear this uniform. Now, I've ordered your badges. The physical hard ones like this will be ready in a few weeks' time. So you'll have some temporary badges to wear when you're here. That means when you're walking around, if you do bump into any of the volunteers or staff, they'll know you're part of the team. The induction that you're going to go through on Monday it's not the only induction event that you'll have. So you're going to be seeing part of the house that you're going to be working in on Monday. and you're going to be meeting some of the people that you're going to be part of a team with. But there's a lot of people working. A lot of them are volunteers. There are just over 30 full-time equivalent staff, but there are 220 volunteers. So it'll take, you're not going to meet them all, don't worry about that, but you're going to meet a selection of them. They all perform different roles. So your induction will be sort of drip fed, otherwise we're just going to bombard you with too much. And normally an induction program for a full-time employee takes an entire week to complete. And I don't want to use the first 5 days of your training putting you through that kind of an induction. So the outputs for Monday, you meet each other, share contact details with each other, get to know a little bit more about each other, get to know a little bit about the place you're going to be working in. And believe me, although you will see some rooms on Monday, that will scratch the surface of the places that you will go into, because I can't fit it all in a morning session. So there'll be other places that are opened up. For me, I mentioned on Thursday that when I was working, I was typically the oldest member of the team. The entire business was full of people who were in their 20s and 30s, and I didn't join it until I was in my late 40s. So it's a real opportunity for me to kind of get back to where I was, which is working with a group of young creatives and being a part of that team, which is something I absolutely loved. And picking up on Tom's point, just to wrap up, although we're involved in this program, this is your program. And in terms of what you get out of it, it's entirely led by you. You know, we're looking to you for ideas. This whole thing, the entire pilot program, is about getting ideas from young people to celebrate something for Rotherham that's going to be on such a scale that they've never seen anything like it before. So it's a real opportunity. And again, I mentioned this on Thursday, when I was looking through people's CVs, yes, they'd all got technical skills, yes, they've got some experience, but the kind of thing that I personally looked for was things like this that set you apart from the crowd, that you'd given your time and you'd given your creativity to something like this. That was a differentiator for me. And this is a real opportunity for you to get something on your CVs that will differentiate you from other people, because there are only 10 of you on this program, and that's it. There isn't another program like this in the country. There are 10 of you doing this. So it's up to you. You need to get out of this as much as you can. And if you feel that we're not pushing you, or if you feel that you can add something more, as we said prior, just say to Tom or to me, because that's what we need. Thank you.
Brilliant. Do you mind if I share that link
No,
before we
not at
go?
all.
Just before you go, I'm not going to talk about it, but if anybody has an interest about the kit that Wentworth already has, and there'll be some more of this coming in the future, if you go on that link and if you type in this password, it's only if you're interested. It's not obligatory homework or anything like that.
So what Tom's sending you, when we did our original training, we did this, as I mentioned, during lockdown. So we couldn't physically train at the house. So what Tom did for the more technical elements of the equipment, he created a Vimeo showcase, which is what the link is that you've got. And on that, there are some videos of Tom explaining how to use the kit. There are some shots of it actually being used. And I dip into this periodically. I have a memory like a sieve. So in terms of setting up the cameras, for example, I can never remember from one shoot to the next what I do. So this is a brilliant resource. And what we'll do is build upon this, because we're buying new kit for your training. So for example, a multicam mixing desk is going to be part of what you have. And we're going to buy at least 2 new cameras with some new lights. So we'll build on this resource. I use it and you can use it as refresher training, or you can use it just to sort of clue yourself up before you come into a session.
Yeah, and just for the camera geeks out there, I mean, I use a lot of Sony. Some of the guests are coming, they prefer Canon, Panasonic. A lot of Wentworth stuff is Blackmagic, whether you like it or not. I think it's a really good entry kind of brand, and you can get some really top results if you know how to use it. So I hope there won't be too much of that whole again like that, because we all like our stuff. Like I said, I like Sony and all the rest of it. But if you know nothing about camera gear, have a little look. If you do use a lot of camera gear, again, you could have a little dip in just to see what there is, because again, it's a really good resource if you want to get into it. But we'll talk about that another day. We've had a full hour now, so thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to see you guys face to face on Monday, and we hope you have a really good week before we see you.
Okay, see you later.
Good night, everyone.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Right. There we go. Brilliant.
Great.
That was nice. That
That went well. Yeah.
I'm going to stop recording.